always. So what I'm going to talk about is just general things to bring everybody up to speed rapidly about what's really going on with respect to predatory and irresponsible activities. And people hear about predatory publishing all the time, but I'm here to say that it's not just predatory publishing. There are predatory author services, there's predatory and irresponsible commercial practices in the landscape across all aspects of what we have in the world. So the world in globalization, as publishers have made the world so flat, the world has become so flat from the West that it's actually starting to curl. And the curl effect of globalization, if you picture a map on a piece of parchment and the paper is starting to curl back, the curl effect of globalization is honestly the corruption that is coming out of the woodwork from Asia. And I say that honestly, I spend a lot of time in Asia, and there are clearly cultural differences between the East and the West with respect to commerce and how one undertakes commerce and what one does to make a dollar and sustain themselves. So in China, for example, you take a few steps back and everything is always different when you take a few steps back. So in the landscape of China, I'll do this paper. So I got flamed for presenting this paper at another conference, but I believe in it, it's a good paper, and I will present it again. The disclaimer is that it's been self-published at a university repository and it's pending peer review. So something to think about before you flame me. We're now talking about papers being self-published before they get to peer review on repositories. This is a living example of a good paper on a university repository that has not yet gone through peer review. Now, what the person did is they did a simple coin flip. And they said, if you declare heads, you'll get either $3 or $5 before they flip. And then they don't show what they had in the flip. And so it's an indication of honesty as to whether they report that in fact they did get heads. And so when they ranked all the countries they tested, China, Japan, South Korea, India, the Asian countries really overshot the the European and what I'll call Western countries, in the sense that if everything's normalized to Great Britain, more or less, then clearly India, South Korea, Japan, China are over-reporting the fact that they had heads, and just for the money. So, a long story short, you know, this is a fabric of the culture and the curl effect of globalization. So we've been reporting it with Jeffrey Beal and Joe Bohannon in Science, Retraction Watch. You know, there's all kinds of watchdogs on the landscape trying to bring forward what is happening. And on the predatory publishing side of things, the development of predatory open access journals, this is a cumulative not cumulative, year on year over time, but addition of these curves. We see that it is a growing phenomena and that the number of articles is obviously following suit. So this is a very real issue. This data was derived by Shen and Bork out of Jeffrey Beal's predatory publishing list, and they started putting numbers to it as to where the predatory was coming from. Biomedicine clearly is a good money-making machine, engineering as well, and the others not so much. A lot of people say predatory publishing, but no one's getting hurt. Well, yes, there are people getting hurt. The distribution of the publishers are Asia without India, India, impossible to determine, but a lot from Asia. Surprisingly, some from North America, but then the caveat is, are these companies representing themselves as being North American bound? So I don't know all the criteria which was used in the study. But is anybody getting hurt? Well, this is distribution of corresponding authors by geographic region, Asia without India, India, Africa, Europe, North America. Surprisingly, about 15, 16, 18% is Western who are publishing predatory journals. Now, a predatory journal, as you know, the journal can disappear overnight. So the papers can literally leave the literature overnight. And someone's career, they published a paper in a predatory or an irresponsible journal that isn't archived or anything, and that literature gets lost. Plus, on tenure and peer review, which Franco will be talking about, if it shows up in your CV, you're publishing predatory journals, it does not help you. But predatory is not only journals. This is an author service. which was totally stolen from our edited site, a little bit from Adance, American Journal Experts. The picture here is actually a Shutterstock picture. Phyllis as a female name to a male, and Nielsen Company. And so we looked into this. The offer to write us a thesis for $3,800. The NDA was in Texas, I believe. The web traffic was all Pakistan. Payment was to Dubai. Clearly, they were just simply scamming to get money, and they would do anything for us. In China, there's a site called SciPaper.net, which is a true marketplace. And at SciPaper.net, you can buy cardiovascular papers, you can buy authorship, you can request a paper to be written, you can actually buy a paper that's gone through peer review and have your name changed, and Duncan will talk a little bit about having seen that. But bottom line is, this is a pure marketplace where you can buy and sell a manuscript, whether that manuscript has been submitted or not, gone through peer review or not, or you can request that a manuscript be written for you. And on any given day, there's about 200 manuscripts up for sale. Hijacked journals. Can you spot the hijacked journal? On the one side, you have the Oasis, the other side, Bathalia. They all brand and color and content looks very similar, but in fact, this one's the hijacked journal. And now a person who's not well informed would not be able to tell. And on impact factors, since impact factor is such a huge issue for wanting to publish in certain journals, excuse me, in Asia, there are companies that create impact factors for predatory journals to buy. And the one I love is International Scientific Indexing, ISI, which is clearly not ISI Thompson, but from an Asian perspective who don't necessarily know when they see a predatory journal and they see ISI, they may expect that impact factor is the real impact factor. So the predatory aspect of things, the take-home message here is it's pervasive. It isn't a function of open access. It is a function of corruption, and it is a function of personal or corporate greed and gain, where people have wanting to game the system to get author fees. And that's the take-home message, and we'll move on through the session.